Hello, everyone. What I want you to take away from this particular article is not just the indigenous crops of India, but thinking about how we look at the production of food, the development of agriculture, the connection to our, nutrition intake and to how our society looks and is affected by crop production. With that said, pay close attention to what type of food is based within this article. Rice production, for example, is one of the largest productions of food. It's also one of the most utilized foods in the world. Okay? So, again, what I want you to focus on is what this review actually talks about. It's looking at indigenous crops, society, how the environment looks at it, the nutrition intake, and the availability of food. Okay? So focusing on what the purpose is or what the focus is. When you think about writing, it's usually 2 or 3 sentences of what the focus is. Okay? And then what I want you to think about is the intervention is what? What is the comparison of this? What is the outcome of this? Furthermore, the methods that can be implemented to revive the indigenous crops back into cultivation. Sorry about that. And how we can educate the future. You are the future. How would you educate with regards to this type of topic or this topic in general? Okay. The other thing I want you to think about is not just the historical context, but the Green Revolution dates back into the 1960s. Okay, and it talks about, what I really like is this right here. Typically, if you were sitting in a class, I'd be like, how many of you eat cereal? And then I'd tell you my story. My story is that I worked 5 summers at Kellogg's in Battle Creek. And I know the production of cereal. I've seen what is utilized, how it's cooked, how it's designed, where the food comes from. Okay? Getting an appreciation of where things come from. So kind of keep that in mind as you reflect on this. Where is production at? Okay? And we'll move on. Okay? The other thing I want you to take a look at is, even though this is a couple years old, it really kind of depicts how per capita net availability of food is. Okay, so, well, in this regard, it's into India. But think about how, or maybe even research how it is in this country, in America. Okay? One of the things that I want you to also think about is how rice undergoes processing. Okay? How does it undergo processing? And what are some of the nutrients? We're tying in the food and the health here. Okay? Brown rice undergoes minimal processing. So it retains a lot of its nutrients. With that said, that's one reason why brown rice is so utilized or intaked, if you will, within cereals, dishes of all sorts of types of foods. So it undergoes minimal processing and it retains a lot of these nutrients. So what I want you to think about is, think about areas of the world who eat rice, brown rice. Okay, the longevity of their lifespans within those countries as well, and the prevalence and the availability of rice in general. Okay, think about that, and think about how it's prepared. Okay, there's so many really good brown rice recipes. People just don't eat it, and I don't know why, but that's beside the point. But it undergoes minimal processing and thus retains a lot of really good nutrients. Okay? And think about how many different varieties of rice are. I talk about this often because, how many of you have actually had something other than brown rice or white rice? There's jasmine, arborio, texi, there's basmati, there's, we could go on. There's so many different types of rice. Okay? The other thing I want you to consider is looking at this chart and indicates the indicates indicates an increase in the availability of rice and wheat per person and a decrease in the availability of pulses and millets per person in the Green Revolution. Most people don't do millets. Usually millets is connected to, we tend to give millet to our livestock. So nonetheless, I'm going to move on a little bit. And I want to go through and talk a little bit. Again, we're gonna pull in a little bit about not just the production of food and its availability and its consumption, but we want to look at this course is food health. Okay, the impact of that nutrition. Millet, I mentioned it. For the most part, it goes to cattle feed, but there are some really good benefits to millet. If you've never had it, it's great with like almond milk and a little bit of fresh fruit or dried fruits. Don't put too much dried fruit in it. It gets too sweet. But anyway, millets are rich in protein. That's key because a lot of times we don't get, especially vegans or vegetarians, millet's a great source. Vitamins and minerals. It has essential amino acids. Again, this is something I want you to, if you get a chance, dive deeper into what it is. Okay, this only brushes the surface of what it is. Okay, and it has all these nutrients. We could talk about, each piece, if you will, and what kind of nutrients it has. But for the most part, you're looking at it having a lot of protein, and that's important for somebody who might be vegan or vegetarian. Okay, and I'm going to scroll down, and I want to encourage you to take a look at this trends table. You see between 2000, and especially look at this one, and you'll see the trends in 2009, 2010, 15.5. You'll see that again, this is rural, it goes up, and then it goes down. Okay, it continues to decrease. Cereals do. That has a lot to do with production. And then you're going to see I'm going to look a little, where is it? You see total food. Okay, expenditures. Oops, that wasn't supposed to highlight, but it doesn't matter. Okay, trends and percentage composition of consumer expenditures of food. Okay, where do you see yourself in this table? Do you eat a lot of cereal? Are you in between here? I don't eat a whole lot of cereal anymore. Okay, I'm going to undo that highlight. There we go, that's better. I don't eat a lot of cereal substitutes, but I do eat a lot of eggs, fish, and meat, and vegetables. That tends to be my breakfast. Where do you see yourself in this table? Okay, are you spending more on cereals because they're readily available? I mean, not discounting that. It's good for you. Still, moderation, of course. But we have to take a look at, certain food additives, and we have to take a look at how food production is taking place and the cost of food. You'll notice that between 1987, or maybe if you're a little older, maybe, that there is a increase in cereal. Cereal prices have exponentially gone up. Okay. I'm going to continue on here. That's just one thing that I want you to think about. And then we get to the crux of the actual article, and that's looking at indigenous crops, native varieties. Okay, native varieties. I'm going to stop there for just a minute. So, for example, traditional foods and cereal-based products that once occupied part of monocropping. Okay, I'd like for you to Google that and just look at monocropping and post-Green Revolution, and then think and expand your thought on that. One of the things I thought was interesting about this was the colored rice. We have red rice. We have black rice. We have a wild rice, which is a varied color. We have aromatic rice, like your jasmine rice. You have medicinal rice out there. This is one that most people don't even consider, medicinal rice. If you get a chance, I'm going to encourage you to read a particular article. I provided a link here for you. The last thing I want you to think about is some of the challenges, okay? There may be a few challenges in reviving indigenous species. And what are those challenges, okay? And then take a look at, Employing the same techniques for processing indigenous crops may lead to loss of micronutrients. We need those nutrients. And so, again, going back to the medicinal rice, most people don't think of rice as being medicinal. Okay. I think one more thing I want to kind of think about is how anti-nutrient presence in millets can be inactivated and reduce soaking. I want you to think about the connection of cooking it as well. Okay. Other than that, that concludes this particular review, and I hope you come up with your own applications and thoughts about how you look at rice.